Hello everyone, welcome back to the AWS Cloud Engineer Essential series. My name is Dheeraj and today we will take a deep dive into Amazon Route 53, which is known as AWS Managed DNS and Domain Management Service. Have you ever wondered how domain names translates into IP addresses or how traffic is routed efficiently across the globe? Route 53 is the service that makes it happen in AWS Cloud Computing. So let's understand this with an example. So let me jump over here. Okay. So usually when you want to search a specific website as a user, what you do? For example, first as a user, you will go on the Google page and you are going to say amazon.com. So if you say amazon.com on Google over here while performing a search, do you think it will automatically understand that you have to go to the Amazon website? No, it won't understand. So when you want to reach to a specific application, it needs IP address. So over here, what exactly happens behind the scene, whenever you give a name that is a domain name, it is going to go ahead and use the DNS resolver. Okay. So what this DNS resolver will do? So DNS, also known as domain name system, it works like a phone book of the internet. It converts the name you type into the correct IP address. So in this case, first the browser sends the request to the DNS resolver, as we saw over here. Then usually DNS resolver, whatever browser you are using, by default they are going to use the DNS resolver. If you're going to use Google, it is going to use the Google's DNS resolver. So it is going to go ahead and talk with Amazon Route 53. So what Amazon Route 53 is going to do over here is, so Amazon Route 53 is the service where our domain DNS records are being stored. So Route 53 replies back with the IP address of the web application to which we have to reach. So once it replies back with the IP address, then the user is able to connect to the web application, that is amazon.com. So this is how in few milliseconds before even you notice, this all actions happens in the backend, where first you provide the domain name. Once you provide domain name, the resolver is going to talk with Route 53 as your domain has been registered as part of Route 53. Route 53 is going to go ahead and give you the server name. So suppose we have hosted your amazon.com on an EC2. So while we register that onto Amazon Route 53, it is going to have a record with the IP address of the EC2. It is going to give back that IP address to the browser, and then browser is going to go ahead and log into that specific web application. That is how it works in simplistic manner. Now, so as you know, Route 53 is fully managed domain name system service. In simple terms, it's a web service that provides reliable and cost-effective domain name resolution. It's the service that translates domain names into IP address, as I showed you in the previous diagram. So when you type a website name like amazon.com, Route 53 is going to convert that into a machine-readable IP address that the computer will use to connect. And it is globally distributed and high available, backed by AWS Global Infrastructure. That means it scales automatically to handle large volumes of DNS queries without any downtime. And finally, the Route 53 does more than just resolution. It also supports domain registration, DNS record management, and health checks. If I take you to the console, so if I go ahead and say Route 53, over here, you can see by using Route 53, you can do a number of things. You can go ahead and create your domain. So you can register your domain by going over here. You can go ahead and create hosted zone. You can go ahead and create your health checks. There are a lot of options that you can perform as part of Route 53. So if I take an example, register domain name means if I go ahead and say register domain name, if you want to create a new domain name, if I say new domain name over here, and perform search, it is going to show you that whether this domain name is available or not. So it is not available, but it has given the alternatives which are available and the price per year you are going to get over here. So this is one of the activity that you can perform by using Route 53. But apart from that, you can also create hosted zone health checks that we will see later in the in our video. So now let's talk about the key features that I was just speaking about. So Route 53 comes with several features that go beyond basic DNS resolution that we were talking. The first is domain registration. You can buy and manage domains directly through AWS. The benefit is seamless integration with other AWS services at a competitive price. For example, if I am going to go ahead and buy a domain name with other provider, it is not that seamless, because if you are going to go ahead and buy register a domain from here, automatically the hosted zone is going to get created for you. But if you're going to buy it from some other vendor, for example the Namecheap server from where I have bought it, I have to do the DNS mapping manually, and I will show you in the hands-on video that how you can do that. Now the second part over here is DNS management. So with hosted zones and record sets, Route 53 gives you complete control over your DNS configuration. You can manage record programmatically through APIs, which makes automation very simple. Third is the health checks. So Route 53 can monitor the health of your application endpoints. If a primary server fails, it can automatically reroute to a healthy backup, helping ensure high availability. Suppose my Amazon.com is running on two EC2 servers. One EC2 server is hosted in Singapore. The other EC2 instance is hosted in US. So when I'm going to, when a user is going to log in and try to check the website, at that time, if the user is from Singapore itself, automatically it should go ahead and connect it with Singapore. By any chance, if the Singapore region is down, in that way, it will automatically route you to the US website. And this is done by programmatically, where you can configure your health checks. Your health checks keeps on checking whether your specific EC2 server is up or not. If your application server is down, it is going to route the traffic to the healthy one. Now the third is health checks. So over here, as I said, this is how you can route your traffic from one server to another. And finally, the AWS integration. So Route 53 works natively with services like Elastic Load Balancer, CloudFront, S3 using Alias records, making integration seamless and cost effective. So Route 53 is not just a DNS service, it's a complete solution for domain management, availability, and global traffic routing. Now let's explore the next types of DNS records that are supported in Route 53. So the first comes DNS records comes over here is the A record, which maps a domain name to a IP address. For example, suppose I have an EC2 instance. On that EC2 instance, I have hosted my Amazon.com. So what I'm going to do is, in the A record, I am going to go ahead and give Amazon.com. Whenever somebody types Amazon.com in browser, it is going to go to the application hosted on the server that is 192.168.1.1. So that is how you can map your domain name with an IP address by using a record. Next is 4 times A record, which does the same but for IPv6 addresses. The first one that we saw over here, it is for IPv4, and the second one is for IPv6, and it does the same thing that the A record does. Then we have CNAME record, which allows you to create an alias pointing to another domain name. For instance, suppose if we have Amazon.com, so we can use www.amazon.com, which can point to Amazon.com. So over here, www.amazon.com is different domain name and Amazon.com is different. So you can have an alias of a bigger name to a smaller one and you can route it over there. One limitation in the CNAME is it can't coexist with other records for the same name. So you cannot have coexisting record while you're creating this specific record. Now the fourth one is MX record. So in MX record, you specify mail servers for email routing. These includes priority values. So mail knows which server to deliver first. And finally, the alias record, which is AWS exclusive. So this lets you point your domain directly to AWS services like ELB, CloudFront distribution, or S3 bucket. So alias records come with no extra charges and automatically resolves the IP addresses, making them better than CNAMEs when working with AWS services. So together these record types give you full flexibility to configure, control how traffic flows to your application. Now let's dive into routing policies, which makes Route 53 even more powerful. So Route 53 offers multiple routing policies that control how traffic is distributed across your resources. So the first is simple routing. This directs all the traffic to a single resource. Best when you just have one server as your endpoint on which you have hosted your application. Next is weighted routing. This lets you distribute your traffic by percentage across multiple resources. It's perfect for the A/B testing, gradual rollouts, or balancing the workloads that you have. Suppose if you have three different EC2 servers, one is having a better configuration in terms of CPU and memory compared to the other ones, which are the older ones. So in that case, you can send more traffic to one of the server and send less to the other servers because they are less efficient to handle that traffic. Then we have latency based routing. So with this, Route 53 directs user to the AWS region with the lowest latency, giving them faster performance by connecting to the nearest resource. As I said, if I am in Singapore right now and one of my EC2 instance is hosted in Singapore, so when I say amazon.com, it is going to send me to the server which is in Singapore. It is not going to send me to the other server that I have hosted in US. So that is how the latency based routing works. Now, the failover routing. So what the failover routing is, it provides high availability by routing traffic to a backup resource when primary one fails. So Route 53 health checks makes it possible where you can keep on performing the health check to see if the resources are up or not. If not, then the failover routing will happen. And finally is the geolocation routing. This route users based on the geographical locations. It's useful for serving localized content, meeting compliance requirements, or optimizing regional performance. And these routing policies are what that makes Route 53 a global traffic management tool, not just a DNS resolver. So next, let's walk how to set up a Route 53 in AWS console. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are first going to go ahead and open a Route 53. Once we open the service Route 53 in the AWS console, then I'm going to go ahead and create hosted zone. Why I'm going to create hosted zone? The reason for that is I'm not going to create a domain from AWS itself. I already have an existing domain. When you have an existing domain, at that time you have to create hosted zone by yourself. Then the second step we are going to do is once we create the hosted zone, over there we are going to map our A record, which is telling that when this specific domain name is being called, it should be routed to a specific IP address. And this is how we are going to perform a check. So in this case, you can, if you are doing this exercise at the end, right now I'm going to use NS lookup to just see whether the domain name is getting resolved into an IP address that we are going to configure. But if you want, instead of giving a demo IP address, you can go ahead and create your EC2 instance and you can give your IP address over there also, and it is going to work for you. So let's jump on our console. So this is Route 53. So you can go ahead and say Route 53. In that, you can go ahead and open the service. Once you open the service, you can go ahead and get started if you want to use the console based routing. So if you want to register a domain, you can register it from here. If you want to transfer a domain, suppose if you have an existing domain and you want to transfer that into AWS, you can do that too. Or you can perform other actions directly from here. This is one way. The other way is you can click over here and you have all option mentioned over here. Okay. So I will just go ahead and create a hosted zone. So to create a hosted zone, what I will have to do is I have to give the domain name that is already been registered for my. So my domain name that is already been registered is AI Deploy Hub in Namecheap server. I'm going to give that over here. Once I give that, so this is my personal domain, and you have to select the option as public hosted zone. That's it. You will go ahead and create a hosted zone. Once you create a hosted zone, it is going to go ahead and give you these name servers that is these 4 name servers. You can go ahead and now select these. So if I click on this, you can copy it from here. So what you have to do is you have to map this name server to your existing Namecheap or any other provider. So for that, what I will do, I will click on manage and I will go ahead and I will go to name servers. So over here, I will say custom DNS and I'm going to copy this and paste it over there one by one. So I will copy the first one, then I will go to the second one, then third one, and then the fourth. Once I do this, I just have to go ahead and click on save. So once it is done successfully, what is our next step? We are going to go back over here and now we are going to go ahead and create a new record. So to create a new record within this hosted zone that we have already created, what we can do is we can go ahead. First, I will just reload this. So if you go back to the hosted zone, you can also see the record count and it is public and created by Route 53. Now I will just go ahead and click on this. Over here, you can see the hosted zone details. So these are the name servers, record count, and public hosted zone, as well as the hosted zone ID and the domain name that we had. That is the existing domain name. So now I will just go to create record. Once we create record, you can go ahead and provide a subdomain name if you want. If you don't, you can keep it as it is. But over here, I will just put www.aideployhub.me, and this is going to be my subdomain name. So when I'm going to hit this domain name, it should return me back the value that I'm going to configure over here. So right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to configure a value that is a dummy value, that is 1.1.1.1. Okay, and I am also going to keep this TTL as it is, but if you want, you can also reduce it. Now, what is time to live? I'm going to explain you after we finish this demo in detail, and what are the best practices to configure this would also be explained. Now, let's talk about the routing policy that I just discussed a few minutes before. So these are the different types of routing policy that you can use based on your requirement. Everyone has a different requirement and a different architecture implementation. So you have to consider that accordingly. Now, once this is done, I'm just going to go ahead and create this. So over here, you can see a record, a record, but right now I'm just going to create a record and I'm going to route the traffic to a specific IPv4 address. So I will just click on create records and the record is going to get created. Now, once we create the record, it will take 2 to 5 minutes or sometimes 45 minutes also to do the propagation, where it is going to sync accordingly. So to understand whether it is completed successfully or not, you can click on view status and you can just keep on refreshing till that time it is not being changed to a status which is in sync. Once it comes in the status in sync, which already has came, we can go ahead and perform further testing. Now, why I have not used EC2 instance? Because if you use EC2 instance and map that IP address over here, it is going to make this video too long. And this is a short way for you also in real time, because every time you're not going to use the EC2 instance to do the testing, you are going to use NS lookup in real time. So now I will just go back to our deploy. So over here, I am just going to copy this name and I'm going to open a terminal. So once your A record is being created successfully, what next we have to do is we have to go ahead and jump to the command prompt. Once you jump to the command prompt, you can go ahead and do NS lookup, where you are going to give the command NS lookup and the domain name, that subdomain name that we have recently created. But there is a catch over here. If the propagation is not completed successfully, at that time, it is not going to give you the right results. I don't know if it is going to give the right result, but let's go ahead and check. So I did NS lookup and you can see that it has routed me to some other address that I have not configured. I had configured 1.1.1.1, but this is showing something else. The reason for that is the propagation is not yet completed. What is the hack to fix this? What you can do is now you can use the same IP address, the same command that we have used for this, and you have to go back to your server, click on your NS and pick any one of this value. Copy this because if the propagation has not yet completed, it is going to give you the wrong answer. But when you're going to use one of the name servers that you have configured, it is going to give you the right answer. Now, if I go ahead and hit enter, you can see that it has given me the right address. So it has resolved this subdomain name as part of the A record into 1111. And that is how the resolver resolves the domain name into and IP address. Now, as we have understood how we have to implement it, now here are some best practices that you should follow. So first, use alias name for AWS services like ELB, CloudFront, and S3. So this is some advanced part where what you can do is you can use the alias name for the workload that you have hosted on ELB, CloudFront that we are going to see in the next video, and S3. They can come with no extra DNS query charges and resolve automatically and perform better than the CNAMEs in AWS environments. So when you have ELB, CloudFront, and S3, always remember you are going to go ahead and configure it accordingly. Second, you have to enable health checks for critical endpoints. Once you enable the health check, you can actually go ahead and configure them. So if I take you back to the console, now over here I have created this A record, right? So I will just click on this A record and I will click on edit record. So right now you can see over here the policy and everything is being mentioned. So once you create a health check, you will get an option where you can associate that specific health check with your record. In that way, what you can do is if this specific IP address or if specific EC2 instance is not available at that time, it is going to go ahead and route that traffic to another A record if it has been created successfully. That is how you can do it. Now, the next thing, third thing you have to consider is time to live values. You have to choose this carefully because time to live controls how long the DNS records are being cached, and using a low time to live, that is 60 to 300 seconds. So these are going to we configure 60 to 300 when we are expecting frequent changes, and we cannot even set it to the higher level, that is 3600 second or more for stable records, because it is going to reduce the query load. And finally, you can use the routing policies for global optimization. For example, you can use latency based routing for performance, geolocation routing for compliance, or weighted routing for testing and gradual rollouts. So that brings us to the end of the deep dive into Amazon Route 53, DNS and domain management. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next session, and bye for now.